Welcome to Beyond Business Barriers, powered by insights, driven by strategy, and yes, assisted by AI. I'm your host, Roy MacEwen, and today's episode is part of a special series where we sit down with industry leaders to dig into what's working, what's not, and what the future holds. I'm happy to have on the show Sejal. I'm glad to have you here. Let's kick things off with a quick intro. And can you tell us who you are and where our listeners can find you online?
Hi, my name is Sejal Patel, and I own a company called Sage Ivy Consulting. And you can find me online at www.sageivyconsulting.com. My my business is that I work with law firms, and I work with them specifically on increasing revenue.
Well, perfect. Well, all right then. For our listeners, here's how our podcast will go for today. We'll start with your background and some shifts you're seeing in your industry. Then we'll dig into your current priorities and challenges. And finally, we'll look ahead, where things are going, and how you're preparing for what's next and what the future holds. So let's get started at the top. Going a little deeper, what's your role at the company and how does it connect to the bigger vision you're working towards?
So my role at the company is I'm the founder of this company. And a bit about my background is I am an attorney as well as a consultant. And I come out of the Big Four. So consulting was where I kind of grew up after law school. And I saw that there was a hole in the marketplace, considering the fact that we don't learn as attorneys how to get clients. And one of the things that I found was most attorneys are great attorneys, but they don't know the business of law, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there, the first thing you think about is how you're going to bring in clients. And so when I saw this hole in the market, I started this company of talking to law firms, individual attorneys at these law firms, to discuss their networks and where there are revenue opportunities to uncover. And so that is a bit about my background.
Now, if we were to shadow you for a day or follow you around for a day, what would our listeners see in your day-to-day activities?
My day-to-day activities are different every single day, and it comes from either having meetings with clients or having meetings with potential clients. And so considering like last night, I met with a attorney from a big law firm, and we discussed how I could help their law firm. In the morning, I have meetings with clients, and my day to day is very different because I've never started a company before this particular company that I've I've started, and learning accounting and learning the legal aspects of it and all the different things. I like to call myself the wearer of all hats inside of the company. A little bit of everything all day long.
And which is trick. That's pretty the normalcy of someone who's an entrepreneur and learning as you go. Um, and because your background is what you're learning, and now you're teaching the people you're bringing in, your clients. I mean, that probably gives them a great perspective because you know exactly so fresh in in your experience what they're going through right now.
Correct.
So, what's been shifting in your industry lately that's really caught your attention?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, what's been shifting in your industry lately that's really caught your attention? What's something that really stands out with your clients right now?
Right now the shift is the uncertainty in the marketplace, with the new presidential administration, that a lot of law firms are, changing things as to the way they do business. And so where I come in is as there's uncertainties with mergers and acquisitions or litigation, what I'm coming in with those particular attorneys is talking through keeping their current clients and how to build those relationships deeper than they currently are, and as well as looking at uncovering new opportunities. So the shifts in the market as far as the new administration is giving them some free time. It's giving them enough free time to learn the skills that were never taught in law school.
So how much time does it take you when you get a client now? How long does it take you to go through the process of mentoring them basically?
Um, it varies because each person is different based on their experiences and who they are and where they are in their career. And so and also, to be quite honest, if they're introverted versus extroverted, it takes a lot longer with an introverted person because they're nervous about going out and speaking. They're nervous about even the little things of going to cocktail parties and going out to lunch. So their process is a little bit longer. Extroverts, it's a little bit easier because they have no fear. They're pretty much fearless and talk all the time. So there's different intricacies with those different personalities of mentoring them. The introverts, I have to handhold them a little bit more, and the extroverts, I have to tell them to speak less. So it's a little bit different for each.
Finding that balance, yeah. So, when you look at the metrics right now in the company with what you're doing, what are you tracking most closely right now? What's the first thing that pops out and makes you draw your attention to the spotlight for what's going on in a day to day?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Can you rephrase that?
Yeah, sure. Now, the indicators that you watch with your business, what gets the spotlight for you? What's the most important thing in your business?
In my business is talking to as many people as I can. So I understand each law firm is different and the way they do business is different. The structure of them is different. How every attorney gets paid is different. Origination is different. So the more exposed I am to the intricacies of a particular law firm, I can frame it that way. And so what wakes me up in the morning is who else do I need to speak with? And what is going on inside of their law firm because if a law firm is very much into private equity and M&A, that's different from a litigation law firm or a law firm that relies on government contracts as opposed to law firms that don't at all. So, and it varies in size of the law firm, whether they're a global law firm or just a US based law firm. So it's knowing who I'm talking to and understanding that law firm's business.
And so, how does this does this allow you to rethink your growth strategy? Like, what does next month bring? Have you been changing your tactics or techniques in regards to?
Not really, because the fact that every law firm, their goals are always to bring in more revenue. So the particular goal stays the same. It's just my understanding of how they work is different for each. And so the growth strategy is never evolving. And of course, I know that at a particular point, mentoring is going to fill up all of my time. So, I have other ideas as to how to grow the company beyond just me and what to bring in once these law firms take up most of my day.
So, what do you find works really well for you right now? Are there any surprising wins or solid bets that have paid off for you lately?
I mean, I think that it takes me a while to get to law firm management, but once I do get to that level within those law firms, it's a surprising conversation each time for me, and it shouldn't be because I should be used to it by now. But they're very interested in it because there's no one out in the marketplace who has my kind of background, which is an attorney as well as a consultant, to look at their business and then not only take it from the macro level of the law firm itself, but also down to the individual as far as, and whether it's attorneys or consultants, every business in those 2 industries have billable hours, and it's a partnership and not a public corporation. So, as far as those 2 areas go, understanding that what what it's going to take for them to get their own clients and here's the thing, most attorneys are really great lawyers. But being a great lawyer doesn't necessarily translate into getting clients and keeping clients because each attorney is kind of a commodity. If they don't look at themselves as a commodity, you can plug and play any attorney from the corporate side, from the in-house side. So looking at the fact that like if you are a commodity, my job is to teach them how to be a trusted advisor and to always keep their current clients and get new clients. And how do you do that? My role is to teach them how to expand their footprint in their clients and retain them for, the longevity of their career, as opposed to just one hits.
Mhm. So how are you attracting leads these days? Are there specific channels you're using or approaches that seem to be hitting the mark for you right now? Like,
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
yeah, how are you attracting your leads these days for business? Are there specific channels or approaches or social media, LinkedIn?
Gotcha. So how do I attract clients? A lot of it is through networking. I speak on a lot of conferences and workshops and doing CLEs, which is continuing legal education. I teach. I'm a contributing author for Above the Law, and all of those various activities. There is no one angle to get clients. Everybody has to do everything, and then you don't know where the business comes from. Um, Further, I use LinkedIn, and they have a tool inside of LinkedIn called Sales Navigator that identifies who would be the best particular clients. And as well as going, and spending a lot of time doing basic things like looking up law firm websites and finding out who their management is and how I can network to those particular people if I don't know them.
Okay. Are there any tools or tech or even habits that have made your work easier or more effectively lately? Something new you've tried?
I use ChatGPT. I also use LinkedIn. So those are the two tools. And as far as ChatGPT goes, it helps me with writing proposals, articles, um, even emails. It gives me ideas and strategies that I may not have thought of before. I run it through it. Everything has to be tweaked afterwards for it to be, you know, usable. But I get to at least 95% of what I need in order to use that particular tool. LinkedIn comes into play because that is the starting point that I use with my clients because most people don't realize that you can download your contacts from LinkedIn and do a business analysis of your networks.
Mhm.
A lot of people think it's just for, you know, job searching and for the aspects of social media, but they don't use it as a particular business development tool. And if you combine that with the sales navigator aspect of LinkedIn, those two combinations make it easier because it's live information, meaning that you get to have an insight into your networks, whether they move jobs or don't move jobs, and you know where they're at any particular time, as opposed to, having a CRM system inside of your law firm or corporation that sits there. It's not usable data at a certain point. It gets
So
stale.
if you were to name one area where you spend the most time and effort to gain momentum, where would it be? In LinkedIn? Is that what your focal
Um,
point is?
it would probably be 50-50. LinkedIn gets me to, network and find the particular people I need to meet, but then I still have to backtrack and see who I'm connected with, and that's the starting point. So that I spend a lot of time on using my connections to get to the right people. And when I say using my connections, it's meeting with them first, talking to them about what I need to do, and me myself, as I teach other folks about how to do business development, I do it myself all the time, meaning I need to be a trusted advisor to my connections for them to trust me enough to introduce me to the correct people inside of their law firms.
Okay, well, if we fast forward 6 to 12 months from now, what would success look like to you? What are you looking to celebrate into 2025 and 2026?
Success looks like for the end of this year is working with a couple of law firms, um, which would mean that I'm starting some rainmaking series programs within those firms. And that would be very successful by the end of this year. Next year, it would be I am creating um an AI where I can thereby sell to every attorney out there because my one-to-one is going to limit me at a certain, point in hours. But if I could put my brain inside of an AI, and I have some ideas around that, um, where then it's usable information and it cuts across whether it's a big law firm, small law firm, solo practitioner, they have access to how I react in situations and what I would suggest to them as individuals, what they need to do. And so that is probably my biggest goal for 2026.
Okay, now this is a part of the show or the program where I like to say it's magic wand time. It's magic wand time. If you could instantly solve just one major issue in the business industry just by making it disappear, what would it be? What would make your life easier if you could just make it disappear? What's the hardest thing?
I think for any entrepreneur, the hardest thing is exposure, right? The magic wand, because there's nobody else in the industry. There's plenty of coaching businesses, but there's no consultants with my particular background. A magic wand would be that these law firms know I exist. And that would be my magic wand celebration because this isn't something that anyone else is doing, so the law firms don't know I exist, so I have to go one by one by one. Magic wand would be, what else do I need to do to know have them see me?
Perfect. Now, when you go into a firm and you approach them, is it usually just one-on-one at the time, or do they try to have you take two or three of their attorneys?
It's one-on-one because a lot of times what ends up happening is that inside of a law firm, you're not exactly telling your colleagues about your failures and successes. Everybody knows about your successes because you put a conflicts check through the law firm. But where you fail, people aren't going to be sharing that. So a group situation doesn't quite work because these are people that they're also competing with, to make their numbers. So it only works if it's one-on-one where they're open and honest about what is working for them and what isn't working for them and why, right? Going through why they've not been able to succeed in getting clients. For me, myself, when I first started in this industry, I had over 800 meetings in 2 years with attorneys across New York City, and I couldn't get one cent of revenue in the door, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And so, the advice I got from a colleague was go out and be yourself. What does that exactly mean? And I started when I was 30. So 20 some years later, I get what I was doing wrong, but there was nobody to tell me how to solve that problem, which is what I'm hearing from a lot of clients. They meet with a lot of people, but they don't know how to convert them into relationships that generate revenue. And a lot of it is being authentic and being yourself in building a strong relationship and becoming that trusted advisor. And while I say these words, what I go deep into is how do we do that? And I think it's the how. Everybody knows that you're supposed to have a lot of client meetings and go speak on panels and do a bunch of stuff. It's just that nobody tells you what's the purpose of it and why am I doing it and how do I do it? And that's the hole that I'm filling in.
Now, with how you've done business when you started yourself, Um, did you say I can do this, or did you go to did you reach out to people to get information on how to start up, or did you just basically do your own research and then step into it?
When I first started out, it was a new group. It was for a consulting firm, Navigant. And the goal was my boss had hired a bunch of JDs to go into the legal market to go talk to attorneys, thinking that law school would be the bridge of getting work for consulting firms. There was no roadmap because there weren't these types of hires that were being done in the past. This was all a test scenario. And you were giving, marching orders of just go talk to them. And without knowing, never had done the job to get clients, never had done this before. I brought in marketing pieces, thought leadership. I left all sorts of PowerPoint presentations, and I did what my consulting firm told me to do, and I was failing, even though out of the whole group, I had the most meetings across, the city. Um, I think the turning point was that they said, I was going to lose my job in 6 months because I was unsuccessful. I was doing all the metrics, but I wasn't generating any revenue. And I was told to go be myself. And I started forming real relationships, which people started liking me and investing in me because they liked and trusted me. And nobody had taught me that likability and trust were the key factors in generating revenue. They're the building blocks of why people work with other people. It isn't the 30-second elevator pitch. It isn't all the marketing materials that you have. It is real people connections. And those connections, I did $6 million dollars in the next 6 months and became successful really quickly, shockingly quickly. And then, over the course of time, it's delving into learning why I was successful and looking back and understanding what I did differently. Because at those periods of time, you're just scared and you're wanting to hit your numbers, which is the same thing that these attorneys go through is how do we do this? And a lot of times the senior partners aren't exactly they don't know how they got their business. So nobody has done the analysis of like, what does it take? There are a lot of partners out there that speak on panels and don't understand that everyone in the audience is a potential client. Instead, they think, okay, well, I get to meet the other panelists and can do business with them. And it's that basic lack of clarity that isn't taught that, to me, it's common sense. And it's shocking that my clients don't view that as common sense.
No, the simplicity aspect of it usually, what you see is simplistic and natural, and some people just don't get it, and you have to draw a picture for them. I get that.
Right.
So, well, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate how open and thoughtful and honest you've been. Once I finish this series, I'll be pulling together a highlight reel, key takeaways from all of our guests, and I'll be sure to send one your way. So I
Thank you. I
appreciate the
appreciate that.
time. I really enjoyed the conversation. So have yourself a fantastic day.
Thanks, Roy. I appreciate it.
Bye for now.
Bye.